I stared at the email draft on his laptop, my hands trembling as I gripped the edge of his desk. Dear Sydney, I've arranged everything. Next week we'll be free to start our life together. The words blurred as tears welled in my eyes, but the message was crystal clear. After 12 years of marriage, my husband was planning his exit strategy with his 26-year-old girlfriend. My name is Lana, and until 5 minutes ago, I thought I was living the American dream. Now I'm standing in our home office, realizing that dream was built on quicksand. Honey, I'm home, Cody's voice echoed through our house, the house I'd helped pay for while he chased his entrepreneurial dreams. I quickly closed the laptop and wiped my eyes, my mind racing to process what I'd discovered. In here, I called out, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. Just organizing some papers. Cody appeared in the doorway, his confident smile unchanged from the day I first fell in love with him. You're always working so hard, he said, crossing the room to kiss my cheek. I've got great news. The investors loved my pitch. They're ready to commit $10 million to the new venture. I forced a smile, remembering how I'd helped him practice that pitch for weeks. That's wonderful, baby. We should celebrate. Actually, I have a business dinner tonight. Rain check. Of course he did. I nodded, maintaining my composure as I watched him grab his good suit from our bedroom. The same suit I'd bought him last Christmas, telling him it brought out his eyes. Don't wait up, he called out, already halfway down the stairs. As soon as I heard his car pull away, I reopened his laptop. Thank God he'd never bothered to change his password from our anniversary date. I began taking photos of everything with my phone. Emails, bank statements, hidden accounts. My phone buzzed. It was my sister Kennedy. Hey sis, you'll never believe who I just saw at Cafe Milano. Cody was there with some colleagues, looking very cozy with their new marketing director. My throat tightened. Sydney Price? Yeah, how did you know? I took a deep breath. Kennedy, I need your help. Can you come over? 30 minutes later, we sat at my kitchen island, screenshots spread out between us like a roadmap of betrayal. Oh my God, Lana, Kennedy whispered, scrolling through the evidence. I can't believe this. I'm the one who always told you to support his dreams, to invest in his future. I feel horrible. Don't, I said, surprising myself with my calm. You couldn't have known. What are you going to do? I pulled out another folder, one I'd kept hidden in my own office for years. Remember when we got married, and I insisted on that elaborate prenup? Kennedy's eyes widened. The one Cody barely read because he was so sure you'd never need it. Exactly. I opened the document, pointing to specific clauses. See this? Any business venture started during our marriage, using joint funds or supported by spousal labor, is considered joint property. And this part about intellectual property, all those patents he filed while I supported us, they're half mine. Holy shit, Lana. You planned for this? Not exactly. I ran my finger along the rim of my wine glass. I just never trusted anyone completely after watching Dad leave Mom with nothing. I learned from her mistakes. Kennedy leaned forward. Does Cody know about these clauses? He's about to find out. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I'd saved years ago. Sebastian, it's Lana Lynch. Remember that conversation we had when you drafted my prenup? I need your help. As I spoke with my lawyer, I could see Kennedy's expression shift from shock to admiration. When I hung up, she grabbed my hand. What happened to my sweet sacrificing sister? I squeezed her hand back. She woke up. You know what the worst part is? In all those emails to Sydney, he keeps talking about his success, his sacrifices, his vision. 12 years I spent supporting him, working extra hours at my job so he could quit his, editing his proposals, networking for him. And now he's trying to leave me with nothing but my salary and some equity in our house. He's going to regret this, Kennedy said firmly. I looked at the prenup again, thinking of all the interviews Cody had given, bragging about building his empire alone. Every recorded word would now work against him. Yes, I said quietly, he is. But first, I need to let him think he's winning. Tomorrow, I'm going to start playing the role of the unsuspecting wife one last time. Let him think he's got it all figured out. The game was just beginning, and for once, I held all the cards. The memory of my first meeting with Sebastian felt especially vivid as I sat in his office again, exactly 10 years after we'd drafted the prenup. The same leather chairs, the same view of downtown, even the same knowing smile on his face. "I have to admit, Lana," he said, adjusting his reading glasses, "when we wrote these clauses, I hoped you'd never need them. That makes two of us." I handed him the folder containing my evidence. But here we are. Sebastian flipped through the documents, his expression growing more satisfied with each page. These interviews he gave to Business Weekly, did he really claim he built everything from scratch? Oh, it gets better. I pulled up a video on my phone. Here's his TED Talk from last month. Skip to 14:30. We watched as Cody strutted across the stage, his charisma on full display. Success comes to those who take risks. I mortgaged everything I had, worked 18-hour days, and never took the easy way out. Sebastian paused the video, chuckling. He does realize we have documented proof that you were the primary breadwinner for the first 6 years of his ventures, right? Apparently he's forgotten that detail. I leaned forward. Along with the fact that I edited every business plan, attended every investor meeting, and networked at every conference. This is going to be easier than I thought. Sebastian pulled out a legal pad. Now, about the timing. A knock at the door interrupted us. Sebastian's assistant poked her head in. "Sorry to interrupt, but Mrs. Lynch is here to see you." My stomach dropped. "Noelle? Cody's mother?" Before Sebastian could respond, Noelle swept into the office, designer handbag swinging. "Lana, darling, I thought I recognized your car outside." I kept my face neutral, even as my mind raced. Had Cody sent her? "What a surprise, Noelle. I'm in the middle of a meeting." "Oh, don't mind me." She settled into the chair beside me like she owned it. "I'm just here to talk about this silly misunderstanding between you and Cody." Sebastian raised an eyebrow. "Mrs. Lynch, this is a private consultation." "Please," Noelle waved her hand dismissively. "We're family. Lana, sweetie, Cody told me everything. These things happen in marriages, but destroying his business, that's not you." I felt a flash of anger. "What exactly did Cody tell you?" "That you're upset about his long hours at work, about some young girl you think he's interested in. But we both know Cody would never—" "Show her the emails," I told Sebastian. He slid the printouts across his desk. I watched Noelle's perfectly maintained facade crack as she read them. These could be fake," she stammered. "They're not." I pulled out my phone. "But here's a video from last week. Sydney posted it on her Instagram story. She probably thought it was private." The clip showed Cody and Sydney at a rooftop bar, his hand on her waist as they watched the sunset. The timestamp matched the night of his business dinner. Noelle's face hardened. "What do you want, Lana? Money? A bigger settlement?" "I want what I earned." I stood up, gathering my things. "Sebastian, please show Noelle the clauses about family interference in divorce proceedings. The ones that specify how attempts to mediate without legal representation could affect the distribution of assets." Sebastian smiled. "Of course. Mrs. Lynch, if you'll look at page 12, I walked out, my heels clicking against the marble floor, but stopped just around the corner when I heard voices from the stairwell. "No, Cody, it's worse than we thought." Noelle's voice was urgent. "She's got everything documented. The prenup. It's not just about money. She can claim partial ownership of your patents." A pause. "That's impossible. I never agreed to that." "Well, you signed it, darling. What do we do? Keep her calm. I'll talk to Kennedy, see if she can reason with her sister. In the meantime, I'm moving the new company assets offshore. Lana won't be able to touch those." I pressed record on my phone, my hand steady. Another piece of evidence for Sebastian. Back in my car, I called Kennedy. "Hey, heads up. Cody's going to reach out to you about talking me down. Let me guess. Play the sympathetic sister. Convince you to be reasonable?" "Exactly. Perfect." Kennedy's voice was steel. "I'll record everything." By the way, you should check your email. I found something interesting in Mom's old correspondence with Dad's lawyer. I pulled up my email at a red light. There it was, proof that Cody had consulted the same divorce attorney 6 months ago, right when his first company went public. He'd been planning this for months, waiting until he thought he was untouchable. But he'd forgotten the most important lesson of all. The higher you climb, the harder you fall. And I was about to show him just how far down rock bottom really was. I was making coffee when Kennedy burst through my front door, her face flushed with anger. You won't believe what just happened. Cody reached out. I poured her a cup, already knowing the answer. Oh, he did more than that. She pulled out her phone and hit play. Cody's voice filled my kitchen. Kennedy, you know your sister. She's being irrational, letting emotions cloud her judgment. If she pursues this, it'll destroy everything I've built. Everything you've built? Kennedy's recorded voice dripped with skepticism. Look, I'll make it worth your while. Help me convince her to accept a reasonable settlement, and I'll make sure you're taken care of. That boutique you've always wanted to open, consider it funded. I gripped my coffee mug tighter. He tried to bribe you? Wait for it. Kennedy fast-forwarded the recording. Your sister's always been fragile, Cody continued. Remember her depression after your dad left? We could suggest she's not thinking clearly. A judge might consider that. The mug slipped from my hands, shattering on the floor. Coffee splashed across my bare feet, but I barely felt it. He's going to use Dad against me. My voice sounded distant, even to myself. Try to make me look unstable. Kennedy grabbed paper towels, kneeling to clean up the mess. That's not even the worst part. Guess who he's been meeting with? Who? Dad. The room seemed to tilt. Our father, who'd abandoned us 15 years ago for his secretary, was now advising my husband on how to leave his wife with nothing. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so painful. When? I managed to ask. Last week, at that new steakhouse downtown. Kennedy stood up, tossing the soaked paper towels in the trash. Dad's apparently some sort of divorce mentor now, giving Cody tips on how to hide assets, manipulate the narrative. A knock at the door interrupted us. Through the glass panels, I could see Harlan, our family friend and voice of reason for the past decade. I heard about Cody, he said as soon as I opened the door. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew you'd try to talk me out of what I'm about to do. Harlan followed us into the kitchen, his expression concerned. And what exactly are you about to do? Justice, Kennedy answered for me. Or karma, whatever you want to call it. Lana, Harlan's voice was gentle. Revenge won't heal what's broken. This isn't about revenge. I pulled out the latest stack of documents Kennedy had brought. This is about consequences. Look at these transfer records. While I was supporting us, Cody was funneling money into secret accounts. My money, Harlan. Money that should have gone to our future family. Harlan scanned the papers, his frown deepening. These dates, they align with when you were trying to get pregnant. Exactly. The pain of those years hit fresh. Every time I thought we were saving for IVF, he was actually building his escape fund. Play him the recording, Kennedy urged. After listening, Harlan sat heavily in a kitchen chair. Jesus, I've known Cody for 10 years. I never thought. That's the thing about masks, I said. They only work until someone sees behind them. My phone buzzed, a text from Sebastian. The judge assigned to our case, it's Judge Martinez. Kennedy gasped. The same judge who approved your prenup? Which means she remembers exactly what Cody agreed to, and why. I felt a glimmer of hope. She watched him laugh off those clauses, saying he'd never need to worry about them because we'd be together forever. Lana, Harlan leaned forward, before you go nuclear, consider offering him one chance to come clean, for your own peace of mind. I already did. I pulled up my email. Last night, I asked him to meet for dinner, to talk about our future. I showed them his response. Sorry, swamped with work. Let's discuss everything with our lawyers present. While he sent that, Kennedy added, pulling up Instagram, he was here. The location tag showed Cody and Sydney at a romantic restaurant across town, Her diamond bracelet, probably bought with our money, glinting in the candlelight. Harlan stood up, his decision made. What do you need from me? Your tech company handles Cody's cloud storage, right? He nodded slowly. You want access to his business files? Just the ones that prove he used joint assets as startup capital. Nothing privileged. Harlan pulled out his phone. I'll have my team pull everything, legally and transparently. No back channels. Thank you. I hugged him, feeling tears threaten. I know this puts you in an awkward position. No, he said firmly. Cody put everyone in an awkward position when he chose to betray not just his wife, but his entire support system. As Harlan left, Kennedy squeezed my hand. Ready for war? I looked at the shattered mug on my floor, a wedding gift from Cody's mother. I've been ready since the day I wrote that prenup. I just didn't know it yet. Mrs. Lynch? The barista called out my order, and I turned to find myself face to face with Sydney. Of all the coffee shops in the city, she had to walk into this one. Oh! She stepped back, nearly dropping her own drink. I'm so sorry, Sydney. I picked up my latte, keeping my voice neutral. No need to apologize. We were bound to run into each other eventually. She glanced around nervously, probably checking for witnesses. I know this is awkward, but could we maybe talk? There are some things you should understand about Cody and me. Every instinct screamed to walk away, but Sebastian's voice echoed in my head. Information is ammunition. I gestured to a corner table. Sure, why not? Sydney sat down, fidgeting with her cup. Cody told me about your marriage problems, how you grew apart, focused too much on work. I had to bite back a laugh. Is that what he said? He said you changed after the fertility treatments didn't work, became distant. She leaned forward, eyes full of rehearsed sympathy. I want you to know, nothing happened between us until after he realized your marriage was over. When was that exactly? About 6 months ago. She smiled, probably thinking she was helping his case. Right after his first company went public, I pulled out my phone, opened my notes app, and started typing. 6 months ago. Interesting. And when did he first mention the possibility of marriage to you? Sydney brightened. Just last week. He said once everything's settled, we could start planning. He even showed me this amazing ring. Let me guess. Platinum band, 3-carat oval diamond with trapezoid side stones. Her mouth fell open. How did you... Because I helped him design that ring 15 years ago. It was my engagement ring before I sold it to help fund his first startup. I took a sip of my latte. He's nothing if not consistent. You're lying. But uncertainty crept into her voice. Am I? Ask him about the inscription. For my North Star, because that's what he called me when we met in college. I wonder what he calls you. His sunshine, she whispered, face paling. Because I brightened his darkest days. Ah, new metaphor, same script. I stood up, gathering my things. One more thing, those fertility treatments he blamed for our problems. Check his private email from March 2019. The subject line is test results. You might want to ask him about that before you start picking out China patterns. I was halfway to the door when she called out, Wait, what's in the email? That's not my story to tell, but unlike my husband, I believe in informed consent. Back in my car, I called Sebastian. You were right, she had no idea about the vasectomy. Perfect. Her testimony about his deception will strengthen our case. Sebastian paused. Have you looked at the files Harlan sent over? Not yet. I'm heading to the office now. Good. There's something you need to see. 20 minutes later, I sat in my office, staring at my computer screen in disbelief. Harlan's team had uncovered a trail of loans and leveraged assets that made my blood run cold. He borrowed how much? I asked Harlan through my speakerphone. 50 million, using your joint properties as collateral, including your mother's house that you inherited. My hand started shaking. Does he even have the authority to do that? That's the thing, Harlan said grimly. He forged your signatures on several documents. We found the originals in his cloud backup. I heard Sebastian whistle on the other line. Forgery and fraud. Now we're talking criminal charges, not just civil. My office door opened and Kennedy slipped in, holding up her phone. Sydney just posted this. It was a screenshot of a bank statement showing a recent transfer of $250,000 into her account, with the caption, "When he says you're worth investing in." "That's from our joint account," I said, recognizing the account number, the one he promised not to touch during proceedings. "Forward that to me," Sebastian said. "I'm calling an emergency hearing. He's violating the temporary orders." "There's more," Harlan added. "That $50 million, it's due in 30 days. He was counting on the divorce being settled by then, with you taking on half the debt." I leaned back in my chair, pieces clicking into place. "So that's why he's rushing everything. He's not just leaving me. He's trying to saddle me with his bad bets." "Not anymore," Sebastian's voice hardened. "I'm filing for an immediate freeze on all accounts. Harlan, can you send those forgery documents to my office?" "Already done." As I hung up, Kennedy hugged me. "You okay?" "No." I looked at the photo of Cody and me on my desk, taken on our 10th anniversary. "But I will be, after I make sure he never does this to anyone else." I turned the photo face down, just as my phone lit up with a text from Sydney. "We need to talk. About everything." Game on, Cody. Game on. The emergency hearing was set for tomorrow morning, but tonight I had a different meeting to attend. I found Sydney already waiting at the back booth of the quiet bar I'd suggested, an untouched martini in front of her. "I read the email," she said as I sat down, "about the vasectomy." "And?" "He told me he wanted children. We'd been planning." She took a shaky breath. 3 months ago, he started talking about baby names. The waitress appeared, and I ordered a whiskey neat. "Let me guess. He liked Emma for a girl, Nathan for a boy." Sydney's face crumpled. "How did you know?" "Those were his pics 12 years ago, too." I pulled out my phone, showing her a photo of a nursery design board. "This was our spare room, before he convinced me to turn it into his home office." "I feel so stupid." She wiped her eyes with a cocktail napkin. "The money he transferred to my account was from our joint savings, money I earned. I transferred it back as soon as I saw the news about the emergency hearing." She pulled out her phone, showing me the confirmation. "I saved the original transfer receipt too. Will that help your case?" I forwarded the screenshots to Sebastian. "Yes, it will. Thank you. There's something else." She dug through her purse, producing a USB drive. "Last week, Cody asked me to store some files on my personal cloud account. Said it was for safekeeping during a system upgrade. I looked at them yesterday after our coffee shop talk. Well, you should see for yourself." Back at my house, Kennedy and Harlan huddled around my laptop as I plugged in the drive. "Holy shit," Kennedy breathed, scrolling through the documents. "These are transfer records to offshore accounts." Harlan pointed at the screen. "Look at these dates. He started moving money the day after his first company went public, right when he met Sydney." "It gets worse," Sydney said quietly. "There are emails about something called Project Phoenix. It's a plan to bankrupt his current companies, then rebuy the assets at pennies on the dollar through shell corporations." I felt the blood drain from my face. All those employees, their jobs, their pensions. "I'll call Sebastian," Harlan said, already dialing. "This is securities fraud. We need to get the SEC involved." My phone buzzed, Cody's name flashing on the screen. I put it on speaker. "Lana, baby, we need to talk." His voice was honey smooth, the way it always got when he wanted something. "I just heard from my lawyer about tomorrow's hearing. This is getting out of hand." "Is it?" I kept my voice steady. "How's Project Phoenix going?" A pause. "What are you talking about?" "You know exactly what I'm talking about. Did you really think you could hide everything forever?" "Whatever you think you know." He stopped abruptly. I could hear him moving, probably checking who might be listening. "Where are you?" "Safe, which is more than I can say for your freedom once the SEC sees these files." "What files?" "Lana, you're not thinking clearly. Remember what happened after your dad left? How emotional you got? Maybe you should talk to someone. You mean like how you've been talking to my father about hiding assets? I nodded to Kennedy, who played her recording of his bribery attempt. That was taken out of context. Save it for court. I hung up, hands trembling despite my brave words. Sydney touched my arm. I'm so sorry. I never knew. It's not your fault. I meant it. He's been playing this game for years. I was just too loyal to see it. My phone lit up with texts. Noelle, please don't destroy my son's life. We can work this out. Dad, your mother and I taught you better than this vindictive behavior. Cody, think carefully about your next move. You're not the only one with evidence. He's desperate, Harlan observed. That makes him dangerous. Let him try something, Kennedy said fiercely. We have everything documented. Speaking of documentation, Sydney pulled out one more thing, a small notebook. I kept a diary of everything since we met, including the times he talked about hiding money from his unstable wife. Will that help? Sebastian's voice came through the speakerphone. That's exactly what we need. Sydney, are you willing to testify? She straightened her shoulders. Yes, I want to make this right. I looked around the room, at Kennedy's protective stance, Harlan's steady presence, even Sydney's unexpected alliance. For the first time in weeks, I felt truly strong. Tomorrow morning, Sebastian said, we end this. No, I corrected him, thinking of all the other women Cody might have targeted next. Tomorrow morning, we start making things right. The pieces were in place. The truth was coming to light, and Cody's carefully constructed house of cards was about to come crashing down. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I was organizing files in my home office when the doorbell rang. Through the security camera, I saw Cody standing on my porch, swaying slightly. Go away, I said through the intercom. Just hear me out. His words slurred. 5 minutes. Everything goes through our lawyers now. Remember our first apartment? He pressed his forehead against the door. That tiny studio where we could barely afford ramen. You believed in me then. What changed? You did. But I found myself opening the door anyway, keeping the security chain latched. You're drunk. Had to be to come here. He looked terrible, designer shirt wrinkled, eyes bloodshot. I saw the SEC filing. You're really going to do this? You did this. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth. He laughed bitterly. The truth? The truth is, you were suffocating me. Always so perfect, so supportive. Do you know how that feels? Living in your shadow. My shadow? I slammed the door shut, then reopened it without the chain. Let's talk about shadows, Cody. Let's talk about how I worked 60-hour weeks so you could quit your job. How I edited every proposal, coached you through every pitch. I never asked you to do that. No, you just expected it. Like you expected me to keep quiet about the vasectomy. To keep playing the supportive wife while you built your escape fund. He stepped back, surprise flickering across his face. How did you... Find out? Sydney showed me everything. I pulled out my phone, playing the video she'd recorded of him describing Project Phoenix, including your plans to destroy your own companies. That bitch, he snarled, mask finally slipping. She had no right. She had every right, just like I had every right to protect myself with that prenup you never bothered to read carefully. His face darkened. You think you're so clever? I still have the recordings. What recordings? From your therapy sessions after the failed IVF, your depression, your anxiety. He smiled meanly. How do you think a judge will view your mental state? I felt ice in my veins, but kept my voice steady. Those sessions were private, protected by law. Amazing what people will share when you pay them enough. He stepped closer. Drop the SEC filing, accept my settlement offer, or everyone will know just how unstable you really are. Back away from her. Harlan's voice cut through the night. He emerged from the shadows of my garden, phone held up. Got all that on video, buddy? Cody spun around. You're recording me. We're recording everything. Kennedy appeared from behind her car across the street. Have been for weeks. including that little confession about bribing medical professionals. You set me up. Cody turned back to me, realization dawning. No. I stood straighter. You set yourself up. I just made sure there were witnesses. This isn't over. He stumbled back toward his car. You're not driving, Harlan said firmly, already dialing. I'm calling you a car, and if you try to leave, I'm calling the police. We watched in silence as Cody was loaded into a rideshare, his threats fading into the night. You okay? Kennedy hugged me once he was gone. No. I let out a shaky breath. But I will be. Thank you both for being here. Sebastian's going to love this footage, Harlan said, sending the video to our lawyer. Threatening to expose confidential medical records? That's another criminal charge. My phone buzzed with a news alert. I opened it to find Cody's face plastered across the business section. Tech CEO faces fraud allegations, stock plummets. It's starting, Kennedy said softly. More alerts followed. Major investors pull out amid scandal. Board calls emergency meeting. SEC launches full investigation. Look at this. Harlan showed us his phone. Sydney had posted a public statement on LinkedIn, detailing everything she knew about Project Phoenix. The comments were exploding. She really came through, I said. We all did. Kennedy squeezed my hand. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be intense. But as they left, I didn't go to bed. Instead, I sat in my office, surrounded by 12 years of memories. Photos of business launches, award ceremonies, charity galas, all moments where I'd stood in the background, supporting his spotlight. My phone lit up with a text from Sebastian. Everything's ready, you've got this. Another from Sydney. I'll be there tomorrow, he can't silence us all. And finally, one from Harlan. Remember, this isn't about revenge, it's about justice. I looked at my wedding photo, at the young woman who thought love meant sacrificing everything. Tomorrow, I'd show the world, and myself, exactly how wrong that was. The sun was rising when I finally went to bed, but I wasn't afraid anymore. The truth was on my side, and for once, that was enough. The courtroom fell silent as Judge Martinez entered. Cody sat across the aisle with his legal team, looking immaculate in a custom suit, probably bought with more of our money. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Before we begin, Judge Martinez said, adjusting her glasses, I want to address the media attention this case has received. This is not a circus. This is a court of law. Sebastian stood. Your Honor, given recent developments, we'd like to present new evidence regarding Mr. Lynch's financial dealings. Objection. Cody's lawyer jumped up. Any evidence related to the ongoing SEC investigation should be inadmissible. Overruled. Judge Martinez's gaze was sharp. Proceed, Counselor. Sebastian projected the first document, Cody's email about Project Phoenix. As you can see, Your Honor, Mr. Lynch planned to deliberately bankrupt his companies while protecting his personal assets through offshore accounts. These are private business matters, Cody's lawyer protested. They became matrimonial matters, Sebastian countered, when Mr. Lynch used jointly owned properties as collateral for his schemes. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Lynch, did you obtain your wife's permission before leveraging these properties? Cody cleared his throat. I had implied consent based on our marriage. That's a no, Judge Martinez cut him off. Continue, Counselor. Sebastian played the video from last night. The courtroom buzzed as Cody threatened to expose my medical records. I watched his mother's face fall, finally seeing her son for who he really was. Furthermore, Sebastian added, we have testimony from Sydney Price about Mr. Lynch's deliberate deception. Sydney walked in, head high despite the whispers. She took the stand and detailed everything. The hidden accounts, the manipulation, the planned corporate bankruptcy. And when did Mr. Lynch inform you of his vasectomy? Sebastian asked. He didn't. Sydney's voice was clear. He spent months discussing our future children, knowing it was impossible. Objection, Cody's lawyer again. My client's medical decisions are private. Like my therapy sessions? I couldn't help interjecting. Judge Martinez banged her gavel. Order. Mr. Lynch, would you like to address these allegations? Cody stood, straightening his tie. Your Honor, my wife is clearly emotional about our separation. She's fabricating— I have the medical records, Sebastian interrupted, presenting another document. The vasectomy was performed 3 months before Mr. Lynch began fertility treatments with my client, treatments he knew would fail. The courtroom erupted. Judge Martinez banged her gavel again. Enough. Mr. Lynch, do you deny these records? Cody's lawyer whispered something to him. He sat down without answering. Your Honor, Sebastian continued, given Mr. Lynch's documented fraud, threats, and violation of court orders, we're asking for full financial discovery and an immediate freeze on all accounts. You can't do this, Cody suddenly shouted, mask finally cracking. I built everything. She just rode my coattails. I have your TED Talk, Sebastian said calmly, pulling up the video, where you claim, and I quote, I mortgaged everything I had. Shall we discuss whose salary actually paid those mortgages? The judge held up her hand. I've seen enough. Given the evidence of financial misconduct and attempted witness intimidation, I'm granting the freeze on all accounts. Furthermore, I'm referring evidence of criminal conduct to the district attorney's office. Cody slumped in his chair as Sebastian presented our final motion, the enforcement of the prenup's intellectual property clauses. As you'll recall, Your Honor, Sebastian said, you oversaw the prenup's creation. The clauses clearly state that patents developed during the marriage are joint property. I remember, Judge Martinez looked at Cody. I also remember Mr. Lynch laughing about those clauses, saying they were unnecessary because, and I quote, what's mine is hers forever. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Given the overwhelming evidence of fraud, the judge continued, I'm upholding all prenuptial clauses. Mr. Lynch, you'll transfer 50% ownership of all patents and intellectual property developed during the marriage to your wife. Additionally, you'll pay her legal fees and compensatory damages for the attempted character assassination. Cody's mother burst into tears. His lawyer started scribbling appeal notes, but Cody just sat there, staring at his empire crumbling. One more thing, Judge Martinez added. Mrs. Lynch, the court recognizes your significant contributions to building these companies. Your husband's attempts to erase those contributions stopped today. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, but Sebastian guided me through them to where Kennedy, Harlan, and Sydney waited. It's done, I said, finally letting tears fall. Not quite, Harlan replied, showing me his phone. Breaking news, Cody's board of directors had called an emergency vote. He was being removed as CEO. What now? Sydney asked quietly. I looked at the courthouse steps where Cody was facing a mob of reporters, his carefully crafted image shattered. Now, I said, we rebuild. But this time, on honest foundations. Kennedy hugged me. Ready to go home? I nodded, feeling lighter than I had in years. The truth hadn't just set me free. It had given me back my power. The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I signed the final paperwork. Not divorce papers, those were long settled, but documents establishing a foundation to help victims of financial abuse. That's the last one, Sebastian said, gathering the forms. The Foundation for Economic Justice is officially launched. I still think we should have named it the Karma Fund, Kennedy joked from her spot on my office couch. My phone buzzed with a text from Sydney. Turn on CNBC now. I grabbed the remote, and Cody's face filled the screen. He was leaving a different courthouse, this one federal. The headline below read, Tech CEO pleads guilty to securities fraud. He took the plea deal, Harlan said, walking in with coffee for everyone. 5 years and full restitution. How are the companies doing? I asked him, though I already knew. I'd been part of the recovery team. Better than ever. The new management team is implementing all your suggestions. Transparent operations, ethical practices, proper profit sharing with employees. He smiled. Amazing what happens when you run things honestly. Speaking of honest operations, Kennedy pulled up an article on her tablet. Have you seen the latest about Dad? I skimmed the headline. Disgraced divorce attorney faces ethics investigation. After his role in Cody's schemes came to light, other former clients had come forward with similar stories. Your mother called, Kennedy added softly. She's proud of you, for standing up not just for yourself, but for others. A knock at my door interrupted us. Noelle stood there, looking smaller than I remembered. May I come in? I nodded, and she stepped into my office, clutching her designer bag like a shield. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she said, about how I raised Cody, how I taught him that success matters more than integrity. She pulled out an envelope. I'd like to make a donation to your foundation. It's not much, but... It's not about the money, I told her. It's about breaking the cycle. I know. She wiped her eyes. I also wanted to give you this. She handed me a small box. Inside was my original engagement ring, the one I'd sold to fund Cody's first company. I found it at an estate sale. Thought maybe you could sell it again, this time for the foundation. Actually, I said, I have a better idea. That evening, I stood in front of a room full of domestic violence survivors at a local shelter, the ring glinting under fluorescent lights. This ring represents something different now, I told them. We're going to auction it, and every penny will go toward helping people escape financial abuse. Because sometimes the worst prison isn't built with bars, it's built with bank accounts and lies. Sydney, who'd become one of our strongest advocates, stepped forward. The foundation isn't just about money. It's about education. Teaching people to recognize the signs, protect themselves, and reclaim their power. And speaking of power, Harlan added, wait until they hear about our new corporate partnership program. My phone lit up with another news alert. Cody's former companies, under new leadership, had pledged to match all foundation donations for the next year. Looks like karma comes in many forms, Kennedy whispered. Later that night, as we cleaned up after the shelter presentation, Sebastian handed me one last document. What's this? The official name change paperwork. You're officially back to your maiden name. I signed without hesitation, feeling the last weight lift from my shoulders. You know, Harlan said, helping me pack up, when this all started, I worried revenge would consume you. It wasn't about revenge in the end. I looked around at my support system, my sister, my friends, even unexpected allies like Sydney and Noelle. It was about justice, about showing others they're not alone, and about building something better from the ashes, Kennedy added. My phone buzzed one last time, an email from one of our first foundation clients. Thank you for showing me I'm not crazy. That financial abuse is real. Today I left him, and I'm never looking back. I showed the email to everyone, and Sydney squeezed my hand. That's why we do this. No, I corrected her. That's why we do this, all of us. As we walked out together, I caught my reflection in the window. I didn't see a victim, or even a survivor. I saw a warrior who'd turned her pain into purpose. Ready for tomorrow? Harlan asked. That congressional testimony on financial abuse won't give itself. I smiled, feeling stronger than ever. Ready for anything, because this isn't an ending, it's a beginning. For all of us. The night air was cool on my face as we stepped outside, and for the first time in forever, I felt completely, utterly free. Not because I'd won, but because I'd found my true purpose. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's helping others rise above.